Hey everybody, it's been a tough week, and I think it's important for us to start talking about what a post-violence world looks like. We've experienced so many mass shootings, not only in the past week, but in the last 100 years. The incredible uptick in gun ownership, but also gun ownership for the sake of killing other people. That it's time to start talking about what it looks like to stop with the violence, to eradicate this sense of need to be armed, or to fight, or have the ability to bring arms to each other so as to resolve conflict. I believe conflict is important and is generative and is necessary. But from where I sit, and I may be wrong, I accept that, but I don't believe violence has a place in modern society. I think violence is obsolete. And I'd like to talk about what could replace violence in our culture. Let's all operate under the assumption that safety is something that we all want and need. We all need to feel safe. We all need to feel like we can go outside and take a walk and go to the store or go to the park or be on the bus or take the train or ride our bike and not feel like we're gonna get attacked by any other individual, or at this point even most animals. We shouldn't feel like there's a high risk of death or mutilation or brutality coming from other individuals. It's 2021, y'all. We've been living in this human form for a long time. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Unfortunately, it feels like we're only getting more and more aggressive with each other, and our species is only getting more and more unsafe as we relate, and as we arm ourselves, and as we show up in the world with fear. And so I'd like to start to propose something new. And this isn't my own concept. This comes from the work of abolitionists, the work of people who have been thinking about this for generations. Social justice activists, civil rights leaders, people who understand that community safety is of utmost priority and is not something that they can rely on any government or institution to provide. It must come from our own walls, from our own communities, from the grassroots, in order to support what we need as communities and as people, as individuals and as collectives. And so that means starting with safety. Safety exists in a culture of health, physical health and mental health. Good food, access to clean water, an ability to live without having to worry about disease or disease, right? Disease is something that shows up, as does dis-ease, when we're not healthy. And that could be mental, it could be physical, it could be all sorts of things. Whatever circumstances are going against our health, may they be the chemicals in the water or the food we're eating, that's part of health. And so that's an integral component of getting to a safe place, is having health, access to good health. Another integral component, I would say, is love and belonging. Now, you may feel isolated. We all have experienced isolation in our lives, and during this pandemic, it is acute. We are experiencing major isolation. But it is also a time to recognize that as human beings, we are surrounded by other fellow human beings who are often going through similar challenges. Feelings of isolation, feelings of disconnection, feelings of even dis-ease, right? And we can start to recognize where our common, united values may show up, and we can start to see each other and help each other out and build relationships around mutual aid. And I'd like to propose that when we start to look out for each other's safety, each other's health and well-being, we can start to get into a space of love and belonging. We can start to see how love shows up, how we care for each other. And just by caring, by asking a nice question to a stranger, by helping someone, by offering someone something that they need, That is a sign of giving love, a sign of care, a sign of mutual humanity. And sometimes those basic things can go a long way in elevating someone's day, their week, their life. So I'd like to propose a set of values that we may be able to look at as post-violence values. What are the values of a culture that is post-violence? I think they are values of dignity. Dignity means we treat each other as we want to be treated. We show up full, and we see our full humanity, and we feel able to express ourselves authentically and fully as ourselves, without judgment, without shame. We're able to maybe even expose the shadowy sides of ourselves and recognize we can be dignified, we can be whole, we can be complete. And it's our responsibility to offer dignity to others, to see others even in their shadows or in their shame and say, hey, you are a complete person, you are whole, you belong. I can love you, I can see you, I can offer you well-being, care, aid, health, safety. Another value is understanding. We need to learn how to understand each other. I'm not saying this is agreement. This is where conflict is generative, right? Conflict is great. Conflict is important. Having that static allows us to grow, allows us to exchange, allows us to learn, to evolve. That's so important. Friction creates new openings, new synapses. But understanding is different. Understanding is recognizing someone's humanity, recognizing yourself and someone else, having the curiosity to get into that and to ask the questions of who they are at their core, and being able to see them as human, being able to treat another being, especially another person, as a human being and as you'd want to be treated. That's what understanding is all about. It's just about getting someone. And that doesn't mean you have to have the same lived experience. It doesn't mean you have to come from the same background, or have grown up in the same town, or look similar, or have the same cultural background. What it means is that you get where they're coming from, you can listen to them fully and authentically, you can hear them, and you can get to a place of understanding, of respect, of treating them as a human, and hearing them, not patronizing, but just seeing them as an equal. That's understanding. And being understood is part of that. It's a core act of love. It's a core value of a post-violent society, in my view. Then there's compassion. Compassion, similar to understanding, is about just extending our hearts, extending ourselves with care, and being able to show care and love. Share passion, right? Compassion. Share love with other beings. Sometimes that means compassion for ourselves, right? That self-love practice that we talk about a lot in these videos. But it also means compassion for others, compassion for other beings, for other creatures on this planet, for the flowers and the trees. Compassion can expand far and wide. But it starts with ourselves and loving ourselves, having compassion for ourselves, even the things that are dark or historically shameful, or the things we've been afraid of. Start to exercise compassion towards those, towards our historic selves, towards the wrongdoings we may have caused, getting into forgiveness, getting into maybe a little dignity once we can lift ourselves into a space of compassion, and start to extend that to others. Compassion is about sharing. Calm means to share, to be with. Then we have care. Care is similar to compassion, but care is about values. Care is about things like health, or providing a need like a job, or educating, or creating systems that keep people in a state of positivity, or a state of joy, or a state of creativity, or a state of generative evolution, so that they don't fall towards violence, or shame, or darkness as an outlet for their emotions. Care means seeing someone when they're falling and lifting them up. It means providing basic, and sometimes more than basic, resources so that people can thrive. It means recognizing historically marginalized groups or individuals and saying, hey, I understand you, and I understand where you come from, and I care, and I want to offer the power, the resources I have to help you rise. Because when you rise, I rise. compassion, understanding, care. Then we have trust. This can't happen without trust. We can't work together, be in a compassionate, post-violent world without trusting each other, without trusting that I can walk down the street next to you and we won't hurt each other, without trusting that I can go out in the world and survive. We need to be able to trust other people. We need to be able to trust our environment. And trust takes a lot. Historically, over the last 20, 50, 100, 400 years, most people have built up a wall where trust is not really accessible. So this is going to be a really difficult one to achieve, but I do believe we can get there because we can find trust in our families, we can find trust in our friends, in our inner circles. Trust exists just like love exists. And the challenge is to just confront the fear of getting into a trusting space with strangers. Getting into a trusting space with people who we're just getting to know, and building practices around trust so that we can be bigger, so that we can evolve, so that we can offer support and care and nurturance and belonging and safety. Then there's support. Just said support. Support and mutual aid. Mutual aid and support, like care, are about recognizing what we have to give and offering that, and then asking for support, asking for our needs to be met by seeing who can offer their support to us. Some are available, some are not. Sometimes we hoard resources. Let's be real about what we're hoarding and how much is enough. What do we actually need and how much can we share? What can we start to offer? What can we give away? Or what can we bring to the table? What gifts do we have to offer? They may not be financial. Maybe it's food, maybe it's education, maybe it's a healthcare service, maybe it's time, maybe it's listening, maybe it's attention, maybe it's safety. These are all things we can give, we can nurture, we can care, we can show up and build safety so that someone can experience a sense of love and belonging, trust, security, health, and free from dis-ease, free from violence, or the shame and the darkness and the fear that leads to violence, and into a space of communal value that is post-violent. So I'll say the values again: dignity, understanding, compassion, care, trust, support, and mutual aid. Those are values of a post-violent society. And I believe we can be post-violence. We can get there. We can get there in this lifetime. We can get there very, very quickly. But it's going to require us to let go of the tools that we usually turn to. When we're angry, maybe we use violent speech or violent typing out in our Twitter feed or whatever it might be. Or maybe we lash out at someone physically. Or maybe we use rage in an unhealthy way. And find ways to channel that rage and that anger back into healthy forms of release. Through sport, through exercise, through communication, healthy conversation, and through spaces where we can dialogue and disagree and still have compassion and love and care for each other and still feel like we belong. It doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be with our dukes up. We can show up in spaces with joy and with dignity and feel trust and belonging. And I argue that that starts with people like me, with white men specifically, because we have a lot of trust and a lot of care that has been provided to us by the institutions and the world around us, especially in the United States. And so it's our responsibility to extend that love, that health, that safety to others so that they can feel the trust, the compassion, the care, and all the things that come with a post-violent society. So I'm calling on my fellow white men to model this with me and to start to usher in a time when we can be safe, when no woman or trans person, non-binary person, or person of color, or indigenous person, or disabled person, or person of lower class than us, or less power, is feeling a lack of dignity, a lack of health, a lack of care, where everyone can feel safe. So as we start to contemplate what the post-violent world looks like, and I'm sure there's so much more, and I'd love to hear from you. Post in the comments what a post-violent world looks like to you. I just want to encourage you all to believe, to trust that this is possible and that we can do this together. And I know one YouTube video is not going to do it, but I also know that this video can be a catalyst for the conversation. And if you believe in it, you can share it with someone. And that can move to someone else. And other white men, or other people in positions of power, or even people not, can come together in this mission. So that violence is not the go-to for our society, but rather love, belonging, safety, and health is what we prioritize. So I want to just give a quick shout to friends of mine, people like Richie Reseda, who's been on the Love Extremist podcast, Indigo Mateo, two activists who I look up to greatly and admire, so many artists, Aja Monet, Def Sound, so many people who have taught me about what it looks like to create a world that is post-violence. I want to thank you all, there's so many, and I look up to many of you, and I encourage you all to find your North Stars and your leaders. Share them in the comments, share what a post-violent world looks like to you, and as always, join us on the Love Extremist website, extremist.love, and share this video with the people you care about. Thanks for being here. I love you very much. I trust that we can do this together. Take care.